What up? What it is? What's popping? It's the neighborhood nice guy Kdot, and welcome to yet another episode of Keeping It 9450, codenamed WBB. I have none other than my illustrious co-host, Lolivia Pope, aka Lolo Bike, aka Big Low, not the little one, aka you know what the going on. What's good with you, my sister?
You know me, as always. What do I always say? I'm black and I'm blessed. The two best things to be. So I'm doing good. I can't complain.
That's what's up. And it's been a pretty good week. And I want to kind of start off by just talking about just what's been going on in New York right quick, good and bad. And I'm going to just tell you this right now, Lo. FOMO has been kicking my ass
Hey, New
because,
York City is on a generational run right now. They
I
got the mayor
mean,
doing his biggest. They got Jay-Z, 3 nights in a row. They got the Knicks winning. The only thing that's
like,
stinky is the Liberty.
yo, man, and I'm not there to witness any of that shit. Like, boots on the ground.
Right.
Like, but
Shout out to Shantae,
it's
though. I saw she ran it back 2 days in a row.
yes, she did. And she said she shout out to Shantae for real because she said the third night was well worth it, even with all of the stuff
The
that
waiting
went
and stuff.
on
Yeah.
in all of that. So shout out to Shantae, yo. Like I know, she had the time of her life,
Yeah.
along with a lot of other people. Shout out to my man Reem. Shout out to my man Hen. Who else was out there that I know? Shout out to my girl Tandia. Like they were out there live.
They was
Oh
outside.
my, they was outside, man. Like, and I'm looking at their stories. I'm looking at like what they're posting on Twitter, and I'm like, I'm big hating. Like, I mean, big hating. I'm like, I hope it rain on y'all. Like,
Right.
like I was big hating. But I'm glad that they're all out there having a great time.
Yeah.
Again, an experience of a lifetime,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest thing that you could do from a life experience standpoint. I've been to Jay-Z concerts. I did the
Mhm.
Watch the Throne tour back a while back, and the joint's alive, like for real.
Yeah, I went to the
So
on the run tour with him and Beyonce. Fire.
yeah, like it was a great experience. But with experience comes what we're going to talk about tonight. And the WNBA season is reaching a point where early season explanations are turning into season long identities. So we talked about it earlier with the Liberty, and we're going to talk about the Liberty and the Mercury, who's entered the year with championship expectations, especially with the Mercury coming off of a finals appearance. But both teams are dealing with problems that can no longer be dismissed as temporary. Meanwhile, you have someone out there in Dallas by the name of Paige Bueckers who's helping transform Dallas into a legitimate contender. And it may be time to start putting her name more than just in an all-star conversation. How about
Yeah.
let's talk about possible MVP conversation? So I want to get things started with what's going on with the Liberty right now. They've fallen to 13-11 after losing 7 of their last 10 games. Their latest defeat, a 93-91 loss to Toronto, which continues a troubling pattern. New
Yeah.
York has faced double-digit deficits in 5 of its last 7 games and has lost all 5. And mind you, this comes less than 2 weeks after the Liberty defeated the Aces to win their second Commissioner's Cup, which makes
Right.
their inconsistency especially difficult to understand. So it's crazy to even talk about it in this sense, right? Because even though they still have enough talent to produce big comebacks, they're just constantly just playing behind. And
Yeah.
heroics from Stewie, heroics even from Sabrina Ionescu, it's still for them, they're coming up short. So just quick, against Toronto, Sabrina finished with 28 points and 8 rebounds, and Stewie scored 18 of her last 22 points after halftime, but they couldn't completely erase the 15-point fourth quarter deficit and take the lead. And it did come with a little bit of controversy, if you will, or if you want to call it that, with Shoegate and Menage and Marina.
Look, and the Shoegate ain't Sabrina this time. It's somebody else.
it ain't Sabrina this time. And I want to just kind of get into it from your point of view, Lo. Tell me, why is this veteran championship team continuing to have this adversity and not being able to grasp playing with a sense of urgency, knowing the talent that they have on paper and on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pushing the panic button, but to start the year, the Liberty have some concerns. Like, they have things that I've noticed so far, and one of the things that you said off break was just their slow first quarter starts. Like, their slow first quarter starts typically get them in an area where they're always playing from behind, and sometimes the deficit is just too big to overcome, especially when you're not closing out games well. So I think that's number one. Their first quarters are typically not good, and then their third quarters are also typically not good. Their inability to close out games is the second point I have, and it's just difficulty executing in crunch time. They go to a lot of like ISO ball or one-on-one and not really spreading the floor, not really sharing the ball, and they're kind of just riding on Sabrina or Stewie to make shit happen at the end of the game, and it's not a full team effort. But my biggest thing is a lot of people are looking at the offensive end. My main focal point is the defensive end. Their defensive intensity has been lacking. And when you look at the last 5 games, because you mentioned the last 5 games, when you look at the last 5 games, they're ranked 10th overall in defensive rating. In the last 5 games, turnovers have been an issue. They're ranked 11th in opponents' points off of turnovers. And then they're ranked 13th for opponents' second chance points in the last 5 games. So to me, it all starts on the defensive end, executing your defensive schemes and consistently bringing effort on that end of the floor. And a lot of people are going to place most of the blame on DeMarco, the new coach. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't get any blame, but to me, most of the blame is on the players. He's not the one that's missing open shots. He's not the one that's missing assignments. He's not the one that's out there not putting a full 40-minute game together. Now, I will say in terms of DeMarco, I'm questionable about his lineups and rotations. Sometimes I personally watched him throw out lineups in the second unit that had poor spacing and lacked ball movement, and he literally just made no adjustments. He let it ride and let the lead slip away. I've also seen players having the hot hand and him putting them right on the bench instead of letting them ride it out and exploiting that specific matchup. And I have no rationale for that, honestly. I'm hoping that changes in the second half of the season. I know a lot of Liberty fans are hoping his rotations and stuff change. And I do get it. It's a new team for him. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, they brought back a lot of the same returners, which is true. But now they're also dealing with changing the offensive schemes and changes in the defensive schemes, because not only do they have some new players, but they also have a new coach now. And he's doing things a little differently than Sandy did. And I think fans are kind of looking at it like, what the hell is going on? Because most of our team came back, but we're not playing well. And I think sometimes it takes adjustment to like an adjustment time and period for them to get on one accord under what the new coach expects, what his expectations are, just his overall schemes and things that he has. And then you also have to look at the injuries. Now, I'm not going to say that they should be losing games because of these injuries, because that team on paper is talented enough to win a lot of these games that they've lost. So I'm not going to give them that bail. But when you really look at the whole thing in totality, injury is a major thing when you're playing a sport, because everyone is kind of, their role is kind of shifted a little bit. The chemistry is off. So I think when Sabrina was out for a while, Satu's been out, Benijah is getting DNP sometimes, and she was out due to injury. Phoebus is out. So they have people in and out of the lineup. So it's hard to consistently have lineups out there when you are dealing with injury. So that's why I say I'm not putting most of the blame on him. I'm putting most of the blame on the players and just their poor execution. And I think that they just need more from JJ. I mean, Stewie has been solid this season, all season actually. Is coming back into her own within these last few games after missing a lot of time due to injury. But JJ is the X factor. She's always been the X factor for this team. Like, we know how good Stewie and Sabrina are, but JJ just creates so many mismatches that when she's engaged, the Liberty become much harder to guard because she can dominate the mismatches when they switch and the guards are on her in the post. She stretches the floor because she can shoot the three ball, and she's doing that a lot more this year. She anchors the defense and controls the defensive glass when she's engaged. But when she's not engaged, the Liberty team turns into a perimeter-oriented team, which is easier to defend. So, again, I'm not concerned about the offensive end. I think it starts and ends on the defensive end for the Liberty. And they have enough talent where they can score the ball. And when Satu comes back from injury, I think that should help on both ends of the floor because we're talking about a player that can score the basketball in a multitude of ways, but also use her length to defend.
Yeah. And you mentioned execution, and in regards to clutch game execution, New York is 5-6 in clutch situations, which is tied for 10th in the league at the time of this loss that happened in Toronto. And I know them coming off of a back-to-back, also losing in Minnesota the night before. That was a very competitive game until it wasn't at the end of the game. So we talk about that clutch game execution. So the issue is not simply just missing the final shot, right? Earlier possessions, defensive breakdowns, and those slow starts that you mentioned are just creating extremely small margins for error.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that they've dealt with injuries and frequent lineup changes. Of course, before the Dallas rematch, they had already used 9 different starting lineups through 21 games, with Phoebish being out, Sabali being out. And at some point, the instability, we know that there is instability from a rotational standpoint because people are in and out the lineup.
Right.
You know, and you also mentioned that it's not, in some cases, is not the coach, but it's the players and their lack of execution. What I'm going to say, just from my overall standpoint, I can put some onus on this coach, and this is just from my peripheral or just from my perspective of it, because yes, granted, brand new coach coming into a new league. Even though he's been in the professional realms for quite some time, of course, coming from a very decorated Golden State Warriors organization, right? So, of course, he's bringing a lot of philosophies from that organization to this organization. But you mentioned something that really, really kind of interests me, and it's rotations. We talk about certain rotations that Coach DeMarco uses, and sometimes as a real basketball person, you want to scratch your head because there is lack of spacing. There is lack of execution from a scoring standpoint. You see, sometimes you have certain people in the lineup where you're like, no, this person is best utilized with another guard versus the guard that they have on the floor. And you kind of question that a lot as well. And of course, the biggest elephant in the room, not Ellie, is the non-usage of Benijah Hamilton. And of course, everybody is concerned about that. So that tells me, from my standpoint, one of two things. Either Coach DeMarco doesn't trust that Benijah Hamilton is fully 100% compared to what has been said in public reports, or is just a fact that there might be a step lost that we as spectators, as analysts, and then most importantly as fans are not privy to, because we know how the league is. Sometimes they like to suppress a lot of truth, and it's always a cat and mouse game in finding out what the truth really is. So even though we don't know what's really going on, emotional distractions are also important, because I do want to mention Benijah Hamilton's ejection after the shoe incident became a headline. Coach DeMarco publicly criticize the officiating afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And the officiating may have been questionable in that fourth quarter, but New York was already attempting to overcome that deficit, and they had definitely done that, but it wasn't the officiating, in my opinion, that didn't help them get over the hump. I'll go to the play in particular that he's fussing about, and that's Pauline Astier getting the rebound and it supposedly going off of her leg after one of the officials from the far right side
Yeah.
overturned the call when there was an official right there looking dead at it. Now, from a replay standpoint, I don't know. It's a bang bang call to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it went off her leg based off of the angle that I saw, but my thing is this. And Pauline Astier has been an incredible player for the New York Liberty.
Absolutely.
But this is me going into my, this is literally me going into my fan, like, I don't like, what are you doing type spill. She tries to draw or initiate contact when she didn't have to.
Yeah.
And that to me is what caused the ball to be loose, and those officials making that judgment call on especially that one on the far right side, I guess, overturning that call. But to me, that just didn't determine
the game. Yeah.
The shoe gate. I know that it was a technical, and Benijah had already had a technical, and I believe already had a flagrant in that game because of the back and forth with her in Mabry earlier in the game. But she was ejected, right? And of course, instead of it being a 92-91 game, it's a 93-91 game. So still one possession, but of course, there could be so many different scenarios that happens in a 1-point game versus a 2-point game. But the shoe didn't create the Liberty's problems. I mean, yeah, it became a memorable moment in the game, but New York had already spent 3 quarters trying to rescue themselves out of a 20-point hole. And yeah, they came back, but still, did you have to put yourself in that position?
And you know how much energy it takes to, how much energy you're exerting to come back, especially off of back-to-back, like.
Right. That's way too much energy. Way too much energy. And yes, I get it. Travel could be very taxing on the body. It could be very taxing mentally. I understand it. But again, when we're talking about execution early in the game, it shouldn't have to take you the third and in the fourth quarter to try to come back when you could have done this very thing in the beginning of the game and not put yourself in that position. So the closing question for me to ask you, Lo, is New York experiencing that mid-season hangover, or are we discovering that this roster is no longer as dominant as its names suggest?
I think the thing is, I still believe in this New York team. If they can get everyone healthy, that's the caveat. Like, everyone has to be healthy. And if they are able to string, let's say, 8 to 10 games together with everyone healthy to kind of push them into the playoffs, I still think that they can be a contender, because the length that they have on this team, their ability to switch on defense, their ability to score, like, to me, it's more of an effort and execution thing. And those are two things that can be fixed. I don't think it's necessarily a skill set thing. And I've been seeing a lot of people kind of complain about the roster, but essentially this is the same roster that won them a championship. Like, the foundation of this roster won them a championship just 2 years ago.
Totally.
And so I don't know if it's a talent standpoint. And then if you think about it, it's actually an even better roster, because now they have Satu, someone that averaged 16 and 7 last year. And they have Phoebus, who's taking another step because she's not a rookie anymore, and like different players kind of stepping up. They have Pauline, like we didn't even know where she came from, to be honest. Like, and she's been a great addition to their team, and especially taking that point guard position and allowing Sabrina to play a little bit more off ball as well. So I don't think it's a talent thing. I really, really do think it's execution. I think it's effort. And I think it's also just everyone kind of getting on one accord, which includes the coach and his coaching abilities. What do you think?
It could be some midseason hangover in the expectations.
Yeah.
I will take into consideration that they haven't been healthy the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Because they've always been scratching and clawing the last 2 seasons and getting a lineup together, even with the departure of Coach Sandy Brondello last year. They went through the same thing literally last year. So I do agree with you there. I do not want to close the door on this team just yet, but there are tons of concerns that I have for this team. And it's simply you sign and secure your big 3 to do what they do. Then you get a steal of a contract in Benigilani Hamilton for $400K to come back, who was one of the catalysts of the 2024 championship team. Without her presence in game 2 in that 2024 championship game, we're not even talking about a championship for the New York Liberty. Let's keep it there. And then you have just so many different situations where you're looking at Jonquel Jones to be this dominant force on the perimeter and in the paint, and it's just been incredibly inconsistent. And we've been talking about this since the trade from Connecticut to New York, even though she has a finals MVP, even though she has, if I'm not mistaken, she has a Commissioner's Cup MVP as well. So there's so many inconsistencies. And I think that from an analyst point of view, if you are a New York Liberty homer like I am, sometimes you get a little frustrated. And I know in the business, you're not supposed to show your frustration publicly. You're supposed to continue to stay the course and continue to be positive from an analytics standpoint, from an analysis standpoint. But because we have our own platform, I can respectfully say these New York Liberty is straight up mid, and they need to figure it out before they won't even touch a playoff berth, let alone freaking just figure it out. Figure it out. And for someone and for another team that hasn't figured it out and has yet to figure it out is the Phoenix Mercury, because their season is slipping away. Phoenix sits at 8-16 right now, and they've lost 3 consecutive games. You thought that they would have stabilized a little bit with the 3-game winning streak, including that 90-67 victory over Seattle, and that momentum there was getting somewhere, but that just disappeared quickly. So let's just talk about the recent collapse. Phoenix 77-66 loss to Chicago exposed a lot of offensive problems. Talking about 20 turnovers, 25 Chicago points coming off of those turnovers, fewer than 20 points in 3 of the 4 quarters. And then that 3-game winning streak snapped. That then was followed up by a massive massacre to the Las Vegas Aces, a 48-point defeat, which was tied for the 3rd largest margin in WNBA history. I'm talking about fan belt to ass in that matchup. So just going into this, there's just a whole bunch of problems that just compounds with each other. So when the Mercury turn the ball over, their defense can't consistently prevent transition opportunities, especially live ball turnovers. The offense becomes stagnant. The team just becomes overly dependent on Kalia Copper, who is having an amazing season after ramping it up. And she's just making so many difficult shots. And when Phoenix falls behind, is the roster itself is not shown to recover from a lot of those. So I want to ask you, is the Mercury offense too dependent on individual shot creation rather than just actions and what we've seen last year? Because even looking at it last year, Satu was great for Phoenix last year, might I add.
Yes.
And we did feel like things did go down when she had the unfortunate hit to the head and the concussion, right? But for her to leave Phoenix and go to New York, and for the Mercury not to fill that gap or fill that void,
Yeah.
you know, has this become a team that has now become very predictable and has endured extreme inconsistency by relying on Kalia Copper too much to initiate or create offense? Because obviously AT has she's taken a fall this season. So what do you think about the main reason as to why Phoenix just can't get it together?
I think similar to the Liberty, this Phoenix team lacks consistency. The difference is the Liberty team will make the playoffs. The Mercury, they're screwed. Stick a fork in them, they're done. Like, they don't have the roster. And I know people are going to say, well, their roster is similar to last year. And I don't think that the front office realized how much that they were going to miss Satu. And we can talk about the defense, but specifically her offensive output. They lost 16 points and 6 boards a game. And like you said, they didn't replace that at all. And this is already a team that already had limited players that could essentially go out and get you a bucket. Like, AT is great at what she does. She's great at organizing the offense. She's great at playing physical and bodying you up. But she's not a scorer. You know what I'm saying? Like, her job is to just get everyone active and involved. And so when you take Satu out of that equation, the only person that can go get a bucket on their own is Kalia Copper. And unfortunately, like, the last couple of games, Ka has been playing great. Like, I would say the last 7, 8 games, she's played great, but she started off rocky in the beginning of the season too. So when your best player is as inconsistent, respectfully, as Kalia Copper is, and she's your only player that can go get a bucket, you are in trouble. And then when you look at it from a half court offensive standpoint, it's a lot of isolation and difficult, like taking difficult contested jumpers from a team that doesn't have a lot of players that can go get themselves a bucket. And I think that another issue is that when Kai and AT drive to the basket, they have terrible spacing, and the players that are on their team can't make open shots. So that's an issue too. Like, Sammy Wickham was great for them last year, and
Yep.
don't have her right now. The rookie, I can't remember her name, but she just recently went back overseas, and she was playing well for them. And I think that from body language, from just a lot of things that's going on in Phoenix, people just don't look happy to be there, in my opinion. I've always said one of the things that I dislike about Alyssa Thomas's game is as a leader, you can't be as emotionally disgusted, I guess is the best way to explain it. She wears her emotions on her sleeve, and I'm guilty of that too. But as a leader, you can't go and yell at your teammates, and then when you do something and someone holds you accountable, it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want
Right.
to be held accountable because you think, hey, this is my team. And it's like, I'm all for leadership, I'm all for leading by example, but just her body language when her teammates mess up or do something, not execute what they're supposed to do, like, it's very bad. And I don't know if that's rubbing off. This is all speculation. I don't know if that's rubbing off on people in the locker room the wrong way. And it just sucks overall when you're losing. So people's emotions are even more heightened. But to get back on track, I think the half court offense is terrible. I think that they don't have many scoring options. I think defenses are trying to shut down Kai. And when they do that, they're really in deep shit because they don't have anyone that can really go out and get a bucket. I blame a lot of it on the front office for the construction of the team, the construction of the roster, and not replacing Satu and specifically her offensive output. I think that Nate tries to hang his hat on the defensive end, but they're just not executing defensively as well. And I will put a little bit of blame on him. I'm not going to say that I think all of this is him, because I think a portion of the blame definitely goes to the players and their effort, and kind of the same thing with New York. But as I've seen these last 2 years, he's not great at making in-game adjustments. There have been games where opponents have gone on extended runs before Phoenix changed their coverages or even altered their lineups. Some of his rotation decisions are not great as well. Like, is he putting in players that can actually defend, or is he putting enough shooters around Ka and AT and spacing the floor enough when they need to go out there and score? So I really don't think it's an answer for them this year. I think if I'm them, I don't think they have a top draft pick next year. So if I'm them, I'm scrapping this whole season, and I'm going to try to trade either AT or Ka to see what I can get back for it. And hopefully it's maybe a draft pick for next year. Maybe it's some young talent that can help rebuild. But I think at this point they need to just scrap it and rebuild, to be honest.
Yeah. And after reaching the finals last season, an 8-16 record is simply disappointing.
It is.
It just represents a dramatic regression. And this is no longer about Phoenix finding this rhythm. The Mercury are approaching the point where every loss removes another possible path back into the playoff race. And I'll leave it honestly at that, Lo, because it's really nothing else extravagant or even disappointing to continue to talk about when we're talking about the Phoenix Mercury, a team that came in with high expectations to at least compete and get back to the finals when everybody pretty much did not expect them to be in the finals last year. Turns out for this year to be a disaster so far. And it doesn't look pretty, and it doesn't look promising. But I want to go into, of course, a segment where we gotta give flowers, right? To some current players, right? But I think that it's time to have that conversation about Paige Bueckers, and not just her being a all-star, right? This is another year that she will be an all-star, but it's time to put her in the MVP conversation. And we're not playing around. Like, this is for real. So I'm gonna just give I'm really just going to give our listeners and our viewers just the last 5 games. So during Dallas's 5-game winning streak, Paige has averaged 23.6 points per game, 7.4 assists, 5.8 rebounds on 52.4 shooting from the field, and 62.8 true shooting with only 1.8 turnovers per game. Like, that's wild. Five game. That's just a 5-game sample size, right? Dallas has won all 5 of them, and Paige has posted a cumulative plus 80 across the stretch. You know what I'm saying? So hey, we got to talk about her in this aspect. And if you want me to give you a full season production, I'll give it to you, because you're going to ask, oh, it's just 5 games. She could do that in just 5 games. So, okay, I'll give you a full 23 game sample size of what I'm talking about. Almost 21 points per game, 6.3 assists, 4.2 rebounds on 52% shooting, 57.3 on 2-pointers, the mid-range assassin, 38.1 from 3, shooting 87% at the line at only 2 turnovers per game. She has a 23.4 player efficiency rating and a 4.0 win share, placing her among the league's leading performers in both categories. Dallas is 16-8, and they're in the top of the food chain when it comes to playoff berth. Now, granted, Paige is not Asia. I'm saying this now. In terms of raw scoring and the defensive numbers, but MVP is also about changing the trajectory of a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Dallas had only won 10 games last year.
Yep.
Now the Wings are 16-8. They're top 4 in net rating. Paige is their leading scorer and assist producer while shooting better than 50%. I'm gonna tell you this, as a team, they rank 4th in offensive rating, 7th in defensive rating, and 4th in net rating. This is as of now, as of how we're talking about it, and as of when this podcast will come out.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes her candidacy different is efficiency without
Yes.
all of the dribbling, right? She's scoring more than 20 per game on 52% shooting. She's only taking 15.3 attempts. And she's creating with ball security, averages 6.3 assists with 2 turnovers. That's better than a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. She elevates her teammates, right? Like, she's directly assisted AZ Fudd 41 times, Jessica Shepard 34 times, Arike Ogumawale 25 times. Those are your next best scorers, right? And Jessica Shepard has an argument to be MIP this year.
Yeah, I think she got that. I'm not gonna lie.
So even with that, like, Dallas is just not simply competitive. Like, they've become one of the league's best teams, and Paige is at the forefront of that. So is there really going to be a debate on whether she should be considered an MVP candidate? My answer is no, but I want to ask you, Lo, what would Paige need to do to officially solidify herself as a top 2 candidate for MVP this year? Because as you know, and as we know, in the WNBA, they try not to have voters fatigue. They try not to, right?
Yeah.
And as of right now, respectfully, if I had a vote, I am voting A'ja Wilson as the league's most valuable player.
I agree.
So, I mean, she's in a tier of her own. In all of the analytical charts that you see on social media, on ESPN, NBC, USA, Amazon Prime, she literally is one of one. The charts that you see, there's a clump of players over here, and then A'ja is over here.
Yeah.
So that should tell you your eyes are not deceiving you. She's clear cut front runner. So getting back to Paige, in my question, what would Paige need to do to come from over here a little bit to inch over to where we see the reigning MVP? So what would she need to do?
That's complicated because, as we know, a guard hasn't won MVP since Diana Taurasi. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's very uncommon, specifically in the WNBA, for guards to win. So for Paige to actually win, I think a lot of people would need to have voters fatigue and just be sick of A'ja winning it. That's number one. I think that her team has to finish top 2. I think that Paige has to finish in top 5 scoring and maybe top 5 in assists. Because typically when we're talking about bigs like A'ja and Stewie that win it, they're typically top 5 in scoring. They're typically top 5 in blocks. They're typically top 5 in rebounding. So I think Paige would have to do that, but maybe not in the rebounding sense or the blocking sense, but stuff that's more specific to her position. So assists and scoring. And so it's going to be difficult, but I do agree with you. I think that she's definitely in the conversation. Like, I, of course, have A'ja as the front runner just because, I mean, somehow, some way, A'ja just continues to elevate her game. Came back from an ankle injury, and like last night, or not last night, the game before last, because I got smashed last night, but the game before last, she played, 25 minutes and had like 21 points and 15 boards or something crazy like that. just elevating her game each and every year. And then the biggest part about it is doing it on both sides of the floor. And I think that's the part where Paige and Asia is separated, and where Asia is separated from the rest of the league, because she is the best offensive player on her team, but also the best defensive player on her team. And
hands down, right?
The scout is to stop her, and you throw all of these schemes and players and all of these things at her, and she still is efficient in doing it. And back to Paige, one of the things I love most about Paige, and I've said this ever since her freshman year at UConn, is her efficiency. And I know a lot of people didn't care about efficiency back in the day, but like now when you look at her ability to just score the basketball in a multitude of ways and then do it at such an efficient rate, like, I'm gonna just say it frank, like, offensively Paige has no deficits in her game. Like, she can shoot the three at a high level. She is deadly in the mid-range, as you called her, mid-range assassin. She can get to the cup. Her playmaking has improved. She can see the floor well. Like, she knows the thing about Paige is she never rushes. She always seems poised. She's always under control. She's very skilled. Actually, one of the best players in the WNBA that's skilled at reading defenses. She knows how to read what the defense is giving her and be concise and efficient in what she's doing. She knows when to attack. She knows when to slow the game down. She knows when to find an open shooter. She knows when to call her own number. Like, the game just comes to her very well. My only issue with Paige, and she's doing better at it now, but my only issue with Paige throughout her career is that she's too selfless. I think she can do more. And that, like, now that she's in the WNBA, she's doing a better job at calling her own number. But in college, I was ready to rip my hair out because I'm like, listen, I love that you are a team player and you want to get your teammates involved. But girl, if you don't put this ball up more, if you don't shoot this damn ball more, because you're efficient when you shoot it. It's not like you're bricking it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're efficient. So that used to be my only knock on her game. But now that she has entered the WNBA, like, she's shooting the ball more. Her efficiency is still the same. And she just elevated this Dallas team from the moment she's arrived. And like you said, Kdot, when you're talking about an MVP level caliber player, it's someone that impacts your winning ability. And respectfully, I'm gonna give Enrique a shout out too, because Enrique has done a good job at taking a back seat, and people aren't talking about it enough. Like, I agree. This is the lowest amount of shots that she's taken in her career, and they're winning. And it seems like she's okay with it. I don't know what it is like behind the scenes, but for someone to be the star player of the team for years, the franchise player for that team for years, for her to be able to take a back seat because she knows, hey, I want to win. And I know if Paige is leading the show, we have a shot at winning because Paige is a winner. She's won at every level, high school, college, and now she's trying to conquer the WNBA. But yeah, so I just wanted to give Enrique that shout out because enough people aren't talking about that, especially on TV with the media. People aren't really talking about, like, they're talking about, oh, Enrique's numbers are down, but they're not really giving her credit because we know Enrique can chuck that bitch. Like, we know that she will let it, right? And so she could have been operating her ego and her pride and saying, I don't care what Paige doing, I'm still letting it fly because this is my team. But she's not doing that, and I think that we have to give her credit for that because winning is the goal at the end of the day. But back to Paige, I think that another thing that just makes her so elite is her ability to be clutch in close games. And we saw her put up 34 points against Toronto and just making elite plays on both ends of the floor. So I definitely think she's in the conversation. Again, I have Asia as a front runner, but for her to be in this conversation in year 2, that's not bad company to be in.
Yeah. And to add on to the Enrique conversation before we move forward, you know, this is Enrique's pro version of her Notre Dame squad, right? She had Marina, she had Jackie, right? So to have Paige and to have AZ, you got your playmaker in if I could make the comparison from college to the pro. We're talking about Paige being Jackie from just a playmaking scoring type, and then you have AZ with Marina with a bona fide shooter / scorer type, and then Enrique can just do Enrique things,
right?
like we saw in 17 and 18. So it's something beautiful that Paige could generate that much gravity and being as heliocentric as we talk about nowadays. And for Dallas to go from 10 wins last year to 16 wins, and it's not even at the break yet. We're still about 10 days or so from the break. You have to give credit to Coach Fernandez as well.
Yep,
he's done an incredible job, and everybody was going crazy when he was keeping it. He was really keeping it a buck, saying, listen, if you're going to play, but if you're not, I'm not going to play you, and you're going to get up out of here before you make me look bad. And by him saying that, I think it just lit a fire into this Dallas Wings team, and they're so much fun to watch.
They are a fun team.
I mean, just when you look at the TV, or when you look at your guide, or when you look at the WNBA app and you see the Wings playing, like, you want to watch them play.
Right. Yeah,
you couldn't say that a year ago.
Absolutely.
You couldn't say that 2 years ago.
No.
3 years ago. You know what I mean? So I think that it's very, very special what the Wings are doing and what Paige is doing. And she's definitely in that conversation for MVP. But we talked about Paige being a mid-range assassin. But I want to go into something that, and introduce to our viewers and fans and listeners, something that we've always wanted to talk about for a very long time on this show.
Yeah.
And it's for me, it's something special because I come from this era. I come from the ways of how to effectively change a game, especially in the clutch. And we know that basketball has changed. Teams prioritize the rim, free throws, and three-pointers.
Yep.
But before the shot charts and before that became math equations, there were players who would destroy a defense from 12 to 18 feet. We're talking about pull-ups, jab steps, baseline fades, elbow jumpers. It didn't matter. So welcome to our new segment that we're calling the Midrange Mafia, where Lo and I give flowers to some of the coldest mid-range assassins, not only in today's game, but in WNBA history, and allow me to show you what we've created to kind of set the mood, because this is very Godfather-like. This is very Sopranos-like. So introducing the Midrange Mafia. So
I like that.
Thank you. That was something that we created a while back. And listen, when we talk about assassins, and I want to save yours for last, because yours was a bona fide assassin. But I want to start things off with someone who was incredibly amazing, especially in the mid-range.
Yeah.
And we're going back to kind of like the mid to late 2000s, to someone who was on a team that was a championship team, someone who could have easily been a starter and a perennial all-star with her own team, but decided to want to stick with the team that she was on because she simply wanted to win. And I want to give those flowers to Deanna Tweety Nolan.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to the Detroit Shock.
Yep.
A career 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3.2 assists per game. She had a great career. She elevated herself in the playoffs, went from a career 13.6 points per game in the regular season to 18 points per game in the playoffs. But the most important thing was her mid-range. And Tweety's elevation just separated
Yeah.
her from most guards. Like, she could not be stopped, right? And one thing about her is when she was in her rhythm, she could stop at the drop of a dime, and she can just rise straight up and release the ball at such a high clip before the defender could even think about recovery,
Yep.
right? So this was some of her signature weapons. Hard crossover to the pull-up. She had the free throw line jumper. She had the almost Rip Hamilton curling off the screen into the mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
She had the turnaround jumper against smaller guards because she was a big guard. She was about 5'11". You know, she had the transition stop and pop. Now, that was my favorite. And honestly, that was the move that I perfected when I was in high school, because that was one of those things where we would run a 3-on-2, and because I was the point guard, it was always point guard, you're in the middle of the floor, make sure you pass it to the wing. And I'll be like, man, I want to score too. So I took it upon myself to practice Tweety Nolan's transition pull-up jump shot. And you see it sometimes in the league now, but it was a move that could not be stopped, especially in transition. And we always said back in the day, the mid-range is a layup if you work at it. And my, oh my, if it wasn't for Deanna Tweety Nolan, I would not have my signature transition pull-up jumper. I still use it to this day. And it's one of those things that helped so many other great guards out, but Tweety Nolan was such a perfectionist of it. And her most efficient scoring seasons during that championship window, her highest percentage from the field was 46% in 2007 and 47% in 2008. She was still averaging 16.3 and 15.8 points respectively, but it gave us something to watch. And the numbers from that era, it doesn't fully capture the art. And that's where the film matters. And when you watch Tweety Nolan get to her spots, like, that was something that you wanted to emulate.
Yeah.
Like, and she had such a great game aesthetically because she was so athletic.
She was super athletic. Like, oh my gosh.
it made no sense. So for those who want to get to know Tweety Nolan, yo, go on YouTube and just type in her name. Like, she has so many different highlights out there. You can go on WNBA.com and try to research her as well. And I really, 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 really loved Tweety Nolan, and I wanted to give her flowers as a consigliere of the Midrange Mafia. Now, there's someone that Lowe is going to mention, and this is, again, another legend, but considered one of the greatest scorers that we've seen in our generation. So, Lowe, you have the floor, and let's just talk about how great this person was for the Midrange Mafia.
Absolutely. I think Tweety Nolan was definitely a part of the Midrange Mafia. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say the player that I chose has arguably one of the best mid-range shots I've ever seen. And I'm not just talking about women basketball players. I'm talking about in general, her ability to get to her spots and execute specifically between that, like, 15 to 18 foot. I would even extend that a little bit further, but this is someone that is a 4-time WNBA champion, 2011 WNBA Finals MVP, 8-time All-Star, 6-time All-WNBA selection, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and 2006 Rookie of the Year, was the number 1 overall pick. And one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that she scored 744 points in her rookie season. And just to put that in context, Asia Wilson just recently scored 1,000 points, and that was last year, I think. or maybe
Yep.
it was either last year or the year
It
before.
was the year before. It was the year before.
And before that, Jules scored 900 points, and it was this big like to do because no one had ever scored 900 points before, right? Money Moan, that's who I'm talking about, a part of the Midrange Mafia. Seimone Augustus, Money Moan, in her rookie season scored 744 points. To me, that is insane. And we're going to get into her mid-range game, but I just want to talk about how she did this from day one. She finished second in scoring in the entire WNBA as a rookie, averaging 21 points, 3 boards on 45% shooting from the field. And to put that into perspective, most rookies spend their first season adjusting to the speed and the physicality of the professional game. Seimone Augustus did not need that. She was already one of the league's premier offensive weapons from day one. She was one of those rookies that, like I said, earned WNBA all honors as a rookie, and that's not common. Like, it's very uncommon for a rookie. Only a few people have done that. And one of my favorite facts about her rookie season is she scored 20 or more points 20 times. 20 times.
That's crazy.
And 30
That's
points
crazy.
6 times. She also broke the Minnesota's single season franchise scoring record as a rookie. So, what makes her mid-range to me so special, outside of like it aesthetically looks pleasing, what makes it so special and what kind of contributed to her elite mid-range game was she embodied the ability, like you said, with Tweety, but she could stop on a dime. She could pivot without losing her balance. She could create separation with just one dribble. She could rise up into her jumper before defenders could react or recover. Elite crossover. And then when she added the hesitation, oh my gosh, like the ability to just create space from that. And like some of her signature moves were the killer crossover.
Yep.
She had like a shake she would do, fake it, and then pull up. She had the step back. Yep. She had the baseline spin and floater. Like, she just had so many moves that could get to her spots effortlessly. And I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to her game. Like, I thought that she had a good handle on the ball, but I thought that she could easily get to her spots. And everyone knew she wanted to get into the mid-range because she wasn't, let's keep it a buck, she wasn't really a three-point shooter like that, right?
No.
Her bread and butter was mid-range. And I know it's not popular in the game today, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later before we close out, but we just gave Paige her flowers. She is single-handedly keeping the mid-range mafia alive in today's game. Like, she is one of my current favorite players that operates in the mid-range, and I would even go as far as to say A'ja Wilson. When she shoots in the mid-range, I don't think she's missing, ever. Like, we saw her in the whole family reunion against Deanna and AT last year in the finals or in the playoffs to send the game, to essentially win the game. And what did she do? She operated in the mid-range. So sadly, it's a lost art because everyone has fallen in love with the three-point shot or, of course, getting to the rim. But I always hold a special place for players that can get to the mid-range because it's a lost art in today's game. And I really think we need to start getting back to it. I think that it's untapped potential there. So I like players that, like Paige, that just doesn't settle for threes and goes and operates in the mid-range. And so that's my pick. I stand on Seimone Augustus having, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the best mid-range game I've ever seen in the WNBA. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that. And I know we're going to continue this segment for weeks to come, so maybe I'll change my answer once I pick somebody else. But just like, without really looking at the numbers and looking at it being aesthetically pleasing and looking at it being effortless for her to get to her spots, I believe that Seimone Augustus has the best mid-range I've ever seen in WNBA.
Yeah, it's such an amazing pick, Lo, because especially her signature move, the killer crossover into the pull-up, like that was the biggest thing. And also you mentioned others, right? All in the current game. I also want to give a shout out to Courtney Williams. Like,
Yeah,
she is a straight up assassin in the
absolutely.
mid range as well. But Seimone Augustus, aka Money Moan, aka, you know, I always tease Money Moan, right? It's definitely Money Moan, but I will always say Money Monet because of the double and triple entendre of money and how we
Yeah,
say money,
yeah,
because the jump shot was always money. And I want the listeners out there and the watchers out there, like, when you're commenting, let us know your favorite mid-range assassin.
yeah.
Always follow us on YouTube at the 9450. Follow us on Twitter at the 9450. Comment with us on TikTok and Instagram as well at the 9450 underscore. But overall, I just think that tonight was a great night to just talk hoops and give people their flowers and criticize the teams that should be where we thought they needed to be, but they're not. And it is just great always giving those flowers to our legends. And we are still celebrating WNBA's 30th season. So, of course, this is why we wanted to add this segment into our conversation. But, Lo, it has always been great chopping it up with you. Are you going to tell everybody what's going on next week, or are you just going to keep it? Because I'm not going to say
um,
anything if you're not going to say anything.
I mean, yeah, sure. I will be representing the 9450 at All Star Weekend in Chicago.
And Best Damn, and
And
Best
Best
Damn.
Damn W. I'm linking up with my guys. They're gonna be out there as well. So shout out to Nick, Wiley, and Jay. We're gonna have a good ass black time and just fellowship over basketball and women's hoops. So I'm excited to go. This will be my second WNBA All Star appearance, and especially because the league is getting a little bit stingy with credentials, I'm very appreciative that they thought I was worthy enough to go. So we are gonna rock and roll and get as much footage as we can get.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the 9450 to be represented so well by not only our illustrious host, but also a managing partner and a co-founder. It's always great to have representation like us. And it's, even though it's been some challenges just from a local standpoint, we
Yeah.
can't say that has been a challenge from a national standpoint. We do appreciate the league
Mhm.
for considering us as a major player in this industry. So very, 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 very grateful that you will be representing us next week. I'll be in DC at that same week. So that's unfortunate for me
Right.
because I
He's
won't be able
leaving
to
and I'm
fellowship.
right. He's coming and I'm leaving.
So it's going to be a lot of fun for sure, and hopefully we can get you tapped in into all of those exclusives that we talked about. But if you see our girl Lo out there, make sure you give her a head nod. You know how we do back in our culture. Give her that head nod, and
They would
she'll probably give you a head nod. Or if she don't like you, she gonna let you know, like, what you giving me the head nod for. And
right.
I and
All y'all
I want
keyboard
y'all to,
warriors. Y'all know what
yeah,
I
I
look
want
like.
y'all to do something. I want y'all to do something. All right, because it will be reported back. And I packed that thing too, so anybody know they get clapped. But it's always it's a great honor, it's a great privilege to talk hoops with you, Lo. And we're gonna leave it at that. So, of course, thank you for tapping in with us. This is Keeping It 9450, code name WBB. Of course, you see everything down there. Follow us at 9450 on Twitter and YouTube. Follow us at the 9450 underscore on Instagram as well as TikTok. You can follow me at K.Loot on all platforms. And Lo, what you got?
Lolo Bike on Twitter. I'm never calling it X. And Hoops with Lo on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes, indeed. So again, we really, really appreciate you all for kicking it with us. And hopefully you'll see us out here. Maybe not, But as always, love is love. Peace.